Hi there. I'm unmasking. And so many of you did the same. And it was mind blowing, amazing. Um, so many different masks that you made as a result of the Unmasked project that we talked about yesterday, in which I suggested that you try out just making a mask. And then shooting a photograph of yourself wearing it, a mask that somehow shows your inner response to the moment. And there was such a broad range of different things that we were seeing, so it was really phenomenal. Um, am I having audio problems? Anybody complaining about it? No? Let me adjust if I do need to. Yeah? Okay. So the thing that really struck me is how varied not only the response was in terms of the styles and the ways in which you shot photographs, but also the emotions. You know, there were people who were scared. There were people who were funny. There was just so many different things. And I'm going to show you a few of them in a minute. I put together the ones that I got by last night. I kind of put down my mouse at about 8 p.m., but more and more masks kept flowing into my email box until like a couple of minutes ago. But we capture all of them. We have them all. There's also more that I saw on social media. So there's just a lot of them. So let me show you. Let me show you what I did. Why not? Okay, because I didn't really share any of mine anywhere. But here I made 4 masks. Actually, I only had 2 paper bags, so I kind of made one, and then flipped around and made another one. So, but I did start by doing all those sketches, and I did about, I don't know, 50 faces, and then I picked my favorite 4, and then there we were. So here we go. These are the ones that I made. This sort of bewildered creature standing out by a naked tree felt like the moment. This sort of tortured creature, sort of angsty, confused, overwhelming, possibly about to have a heart attack. Jenny helped me with this one. Just want to lock down, get cushy and comfortable, and wait for the whole damn thing to pass. And then, of course, this one. Probably the most common reaction. I don't know, just give me another drink. So it was so much fun to figure out how to make these masks given the art supplies that I had, and then to kind of figure out what would be nice locations to tell a story. And it seems like you guys did the same in spades. I mean, there were so many that put my efforts to shame. So let's have a look at those now. I put them together. So the ones that I did so far, as I said, these are not all of them, but these are just the ones that happened to arrive in time for me to make this little film last night. Here we go. Moira O'Malley in the Snow. Just so many hilarious, moving, incredible ones. I mean, my favorites, I think, are the ones where it's not just a great mask, but it's also a whole story told with a picture, the location, what they're wearing, the context makes it even richer, makes it even better. So it's amazing. And if you would like to continue working on it, I'm working on the project, keep making some. Let me just put up the URL again. It is SBS Drawing Party. Ding, ding. And let me just make it a bit bigger. And hope it doesn't go over my nose. It does. So there you go, SBS Drawing Party. So basically, the idea is once you've made your mask and you've taken your photograph in black and white, I got a couple that were in color. As I explained yesterday, that it changes it a lot when it's in color, but when it's black and white, it somehow feels real, like that's really an integrated creature. So take a picture and then share it on Facebook, share it in the schoolyard, share it on Instagram, hashtag SBS Drawing Party. So, and we're going to continue looking, and maybe next week we'll show an updated collection with a whole bunch of new ones because it's just so exciting. There's just so many cool ones, and get other people to work with you. Those are another ones that I loved is when people had their family members involved, their pets. There was a great one which I didn't get to share yet, which was somebody just had a second mask on like a little stand next to them. So there's sadly standing there, um, doing being alone with that. So anyway, it was just great. It was really really fun. Thank you all for sending me the stuff that you did, and keep working on it if you want to. I mean, I think what really strikes me about this whole experience is um, is how resourceful people have been also. Finding creative solutions. When you don't have the materials you need, what do you do? How can you wrangle people into it? I think and when people put a lot of effort into it, that also really showed that this is obviously an interesting project for you as it was for me, and can take so many different forms. So it was really great to see that, and I think also this opportunity to show how you feel, you know, to as I was talking about it yesterday when I was explaining my process of making the designs for these masks. A lot of times I have no idea what the feelings are necessarily that I'm having at the moment. But when I start to draw it, when I start to make it, when I start to think about the photo, suddenly they come into focus. And I start to see, almost externalized, these feelings that I'm having. And I think that is, a testament to the power that art and art making can have in our lives. That this is a chance to express and to share how we feel. And that, I think that's art's most potent potential. Potential is to be able to allow us access to our feelings. You know, and also to our changing feelings. That's one of the reasons why I have suggested that every Friday we draw a self-portrait, which we'll do tomorrow, is because you see things about yourself when you're making art about you, right? I mean, that's what these masks are as well. But also, um, a lot of it doesn't necessarily start with an idea or a clear understanding, but it's more a manifestation, that kind of appears, and that is I don't know what else we can do in life that gives us that kind of magical property, that way of summoning up and summarizing our feelings and turning them into something that isn't necessarily verbal, because that was another thing that we talked about yesterday, is it isn't necessarily saying, I'm scared, I'm mad, I'm bored, I'm frustrated. It isn't that. It's richer than that. It's more complex. Because what we are experiencing now it's life altering in so many ways, of course. Um, but it's unfamiliar, so we don't necessarily have familiar language to express it. We can rely on, you know, the language we've used in the past, but what do you do when you need to express something that's never been expressed before in language, in verbal language? Well, visual language has that ability, perhaps to show with just the subtlest things, the weight of a line, the shade, the composition. There's so many factors that go into it, way more than the 26 letters of the alphabet, and they can evoke things, that that poetry can evoke too, but most of us aren't poets. So I think that this is just, to me, it was just a revelation about how I was feeling, but also how you're feeling. To see what it is you're doing, um, what it is you're feeling inside. So I think we're also at a point with this experience that maybe things are changing. Not, I don't know that they're changing out there in the real world, they're resolving, but maybe they're changing in terms of how we're feeling about our position in it. Because I think we've spent a month now um, of, of freaking out and then of distracting ourselves. Distracting ourselves with entertainment or food or booze or whatever, Skype calls, Zoom. But maybe now we're reaching a point where we start to say to ourselves, what do I do? Like, let's say that this isn't a transitional period, or it's not just temporary, but that the world is fundamentally changing to something else. What's that going to do to us? And that isn't necessarily an awful thing, because there were things in our lives that needed changing on as a species, as a you know as a planet, as individuals too. Though, like, what are the things that, if everything is up for discussion now, negotiation, what is it we want to change? And so, what do we want to change in our own lives? What are the experiences that we want to have? What do we want to look back on this moment as, say, yeah, that was when I realized I needed to do this or that. So like playing around and making masks like we did yesterday was interesting. It was an interesting project. Maybe it was the first real project that you have worked on in the last month. I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe this is the first time you really said, I'm not just going to doodle, I'm going to actually make something and say something. Maybe it's the first time you've done that in years. What did it feel like? Did it feel right to you? Did you feel like you have something to say? And do you feel like there are people out there who will listen, will look, will respond, will be affected? And are there other opportunities for you to do that? For you to say, this matters to me, and I want to share it. And not just anger or condemnation. I'm not talking about political art necessarily. I'm just talking about taking this more seriously, who you are, what your potential is, and where that's going to take you. Because again, work is going to change. How we live is going to change. How we shop is going to change. Where we go. So many things are changing. So what's going to change in you? And how can this process of art making guide you? How can it help you to understand yourself and the potential to? And here's another really important part of this is when you start to think about solving problems creatively, like we did with this project, you start to think creatively about how to solve problems. And you develop that ability in yourself. It takes a long time to give yourself permission to do that. So often we're set in our ways. It's safer. It's safer to just do what we've always done. The irony about what we're going through right now is doing what we've always done is the least safe thing we could do. Change is safe. Creativity, reinvention, those things are safe. That's what artists, I think, have always known, is that when you are in touch with the abilities and skills you need to solve problems and to reinvent, you are safe because you're prepared, not necessarily for this, but maybe for this. You're prepared for change. You're prepared for the unknowable, the unforeseeable, right? You are like an athlete in peak condition who can respond in a nanosecond to whatever's thrown at you. But if you're set in your ways, if you're resigned to your fate, it's much harder to respond. It's much harder to think and change, you know? So I think that that's something to, I don't know, spend some time thinking about. See what you can do. Maybe it's not a deliberate choice, but maybe it's simply an orientation, something that you say, let's look at it all. Let's look at the way I eat. Let's look at the people I speak to and how I speak to them. Let's look at the books I read. Let's look at the ideas I assume and take for granted. Let's look at my relationship to society. Um, let's think about what are the things that maybe limited my creativity in the past? What are the inner critic voices that stymied and stifled me because you know, it wasn't a smart career choice, or I didn't really have the talent for it, or, I don't have the spare time. All these things that we kind of came upon as ideas that then became fact and defined who we are and our relationship to perhaps what's inside us and what we really need to be in touch with. Maybe this is the time to take off that mask and to say, what is lying beneath it? Who am I? And is this my time? Because honestly, nobody else is watching, quite literally. But also, this is a time for taking risk. I mean, it's that simple. Not foolish risks, not risks that go against what we know to be wise in terms of protecting our health, but risks in terms of reinvention and reorienting our priorities. So that's just kind of the stuff that I've been thinking about as we've been going through this process. Another thing I also am struck by is the power when you look at this aggregation of masks and images, the power of this sort of group collaboration. How amazing it is to be able to look at this cross section of, I don't know, 50 people who sent me pictures, saying, like, look at the variety and the similarity, the themes that all come about when we're all working within a single kind of graphic language, right? I said, let's shoot masks with black and white photographs, and there were all kinds of interpretations of that. But this opportunity to collaborate creatively, I mean, there were clearly people who are skilled and experienced makers of stuff. And then there were people who maybe this is the first time they'd ever done anything like this. It didn't really matter. What mattered was everybody brought themselves to the table. And so I'm inspired by that to think about what are other things that we as a group can do? Like, what are other projects that we could work on together? What are other directions that we can go with, our individual creativity and in conjunction with other people? I'm open to whatever you guys think, but I would love to kind of harness the power of us as a community and think about what else we can do, and part of it is expressing feelings and sharing them out there so that other people maybe can come to them too and feel like they can express themselves and release themselves in a public way or even in a private way, just start talking about how they feel. Um, and also how they feel in a deeper way than just like, oh, this sucks, or what are we going to do? Or I don't know what's going to happen, but more profoundly than that, more on a more human level. So, you know, I was also struck by your willingness to share stuff with me. So I think if you have a serious project that you've been working on, um, something that you really think would be good to share, you can send it to me, and I'll be happy to just share it with you, maybe to tell you what I think about it, maybe even to share it here with other people. Um, you know, I'd be interested to know what you're doing, and also to know that you are doing, that you are making stuff, and that you are not simply consuming, which I think to some extent was the impulse perhaps for the first few weeks of doing this: consume Netflix, consume wine, consume sandwiches, whatever. But now the opportunity is to do the opposite. Well, not the opposite, but to produce, to make stuff. That's what we do. Make stuff, make stuff that gives people ideas and insights and inspiration. Anyway, that's kind of it. So if you want to reach out to me, you can always email me, Danny@sketchbookskool.com. Also, I have now, as I mentioned, so yes, and also hashtag SBS Drawing Party. We look at all those things and we gather them. So, if you have something to say there, that's another way of kind of getting in touch. But you can also email me, Danny@sketchbookskool.com. Also, I have this new list that I put together, sketchbookskool.com/Danny's-list. And that is a new kind of thing that I'm making. I'm not quite sure what it's going to be yet. But basically, if you go to this URL, some of you had trouble finding this URL, have like emailed me to ask me. I'm not quite sure why that is. Sketchbookskool.com. Go to our website and then /Danny's-list. http:// if you want to go that route. Is that what it is? http anyway, you know what it is. But yeah, so if you go there, you can put your name on this list, and I will send you stuff that I'm writing and making. So I'm going to be, continuing to think of ideas all the time, and this is my opportunity to share it with you. So yes, so you can reach me that way by joining the list and seeing stuff, or by emailing me directly if you want to. And yeah, so I'm not really going to be drawing today per se. Today we're going to be we're just having this conversation. I want to share that stuff with you. So probably no drawing project today, but tomorrow we will be doing self-portraits. If you wanted to do your mask as a self-portrait, you could. Obviously you can do whatever you want, but I think it's a great kind of process that we're doing. Every week we're making a self-portrait, and it's sort of a chronicle of how we're feeling as we go through this time, and also as a way of learning how we feel about what we're going through as we go through this time. So I find it, and it's not about great drawings of yourself that look perfect. Those of you who've joined me in previous Fridays have seen that I've done a lot of bizarre things that have no photographic resemblance to me necessarily, so don't worry about that. Okay, so yes. So I see a lot of you have had comments that you put here about suggestions, and I think that was great. Yes, some people have found this easily. Some people have struggled with it. I'm not quite sure why. It doesn't matter. Anyway, now you have it here. I think Morgan has put it up here again in more technically correct language, perhaps, than I did. But anyway, you might need to put the S in, HTTPS, I guess. It's not under courses. It's not really under anything. It's just a special page that we've created just for this. So, yes, all right. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through your comments to see if there's anything that I have missed. This is encouraging. Robin has finished a whole sketchbook as a result of the drawing party. That's great, and I'm sorry. I hope that you don't have a problem finding a replacement or the next one in the sequence. Yes, so good. That is nice to know that this is helping you be productive. I think having a kind of somebody to light the fuse spark an idea in you that you can then take in different directions is great and helpful. And that's sort of the idea behind these live drawing parties. So yeah, you've also given me lots of ideas for what we can do in the future. Thank you, and continue sending me those ideas if you have any that we can do. So Maureen says, the mask making felt a bit outside my comfort zone at first, but once I got to the photo stage, it became fun. Interesting. Are you spending a lot of time in your comfort zone these days? I don't know. I feel like I vacated my comfort zone about a month ago and I can't find my way back to it, but that's fine. Allie says, I'm finding I'm braver and taking more risks and not caring so much what people think, what the monkey says. I mean, it's always been true, but it's particularly evident now. Nobody's paying attention. So just do whatever you want. And finally, I just want to say, if you are still looking for inspiration and ideas, I hope that you are signed up for Kosha's Killer Sketchbook Filler, our new workshop at Sketchbook School, because it's all about what are the ideas that start your ideas. And again, in the interest of getting out of your comfort zone, of stretching and trying new things, we need help with that. And Kosha is a master at coming up with interesting and different ways to go. And that's what this course is about. So go and check that out on our website too. So yes, Ermgard says, it's funny to connect with people who are on Friday while I'm on Saturday at 1:52 a.m. and on the other side of the world at the same instant, all talking about art, creativity, and community. It's true. I can't imagine staying up till 1:52, but I imagine that this is actually probably more appropriate late night conversation with a glass of wine than it is with a glass of cold brew coffee. Yep, finally got coffee today at 9:32 a.m., but it is. That's good stuff to talk about anytime. Karen says, prepared for change, very important. I could have done the last 17 years of my life had it not been for rolling with change instead of fighting it. I'm not sure what Karen's last 17 years have been like, but I think that that's the case with all of us. We never know what's going to happen. You can never prepare for every eventuality. So all you can do is get in shape. Get in shape. Yoga of the brain. So, all right, guys. Thanks again for participating in this project with me, and it's been really rewarding to know that this is of interest to you. Also, frankly, personally, I was really glad to see that you all wanted to do this as well, and so please continue to share what you make. Continue to share it on social media with other people. Continue to tag it so that we can find it and we can know that it's of interest to you and worth pursuing. Let's see what comes next. Could be anything. Get ready. See you then. See you tomorrow. Please join me to do a self-portrait. It's really one of the highlights of my week is that experience. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.